There's this big debate going on in the NHS at the moment, isn't there? Particularly around doctors and nurses and whether or not they're allowed and are able to strike. And like anyone else going on strike at the moment, it's about paying conditions. You know, we want more money, and inevitably it's usually somewhere around the 10% mark or around the rate of inflation that they're demanding. Now, the rot has set in a little deeper within the NHS. So I saw a news article yesterday that I want to bring to your attention now and see what you think about it. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing alright. Let me know what you're up to in the comments. I'll tell you, it's getting pretty cold now around my neck of the woods. Let me know what the temperature's like where you're living. We got up this morning and it's like -3, so chilly again. Anyway, back to the plot. Yes, doctors and nurses are actually considering moving away from the country, and one place that's been mentioned is Australia. Yeah, Australia, because you know they're feeling very much underappreciated, and there's one junior doctor that said that they're actually struggling to manage financially. Some of them spend 5 years at medical school, come out with thousands of pounds worth of debt, and are having to work every hour that God sends to make ends meet, and it just doesn't work out. And you know they're actively thinking, Jesus, have we made the right decision here? There's an awful lot of talent in our NHS. I get the impression, and I see this at my local hospital, is pulled in from other countries, and it's a situation that's been going on for, well, years, and that's another subject we could talk about in another video, I'm sure. But if we suddenly get this outpouring of people leaving, it's an even worse state than we are already. I mean, have a look at this video. I picked up a news article about the situation.
On strike, of course, after last week's industrial action by the nurses and paramedics and ambulance drivers. Now, a recent survey showing that 2/3 of junior medics have, quote, actively researched leaving their jobs from the NHS in the past 12 months as they prepare to ballot on the strike action. That coming from the British Medical Association. Its survey of 3,819 junior doctors across England in November and December, revealing 79% had often thought about leaving the NHS. Well, joining us now to discuss the issue is GP Dr. Anita Raja. Anita, thank you for your time joining us once more. And of course, the impact is, in terms of the junior doctors disappearing, not just on the hospitals, because many feed through eventually to become GPs.
Certainly, and we must understand that the term junior doesn't really explain what these doctors do, because anybody who is below a consultant level could be a junior doctor with vast experience. Anyone who's been working as a registrar, a senior registrar for over 10 years could be a junior doctor, just because they have not completed their training yet. We're seeing some very, very disappointing and dire figures. And you and I, all of us know why this is happening. Junior doctors have worked relentlessly throughout the pandemic. They've put their lives at risk, significant sacrifices we've seen many doctors and many nurses die during the pandemic, pre-vaccine rollout. And of course, there is an enormous contribution from their part. But unfortunately, when we look at the pay, the real term pay cut has been more than 26% since 2008-2009, and I am not joking. I am not just saying this. There are foundation year doctors who can't afford their rent, they can't afford heating their houses, they can't afford buying food towards the end of the month. So there is a huge crisis here.
Yeah, indeed, and I think there's a hospital trust up in Newcastle that's organised food banks and help for its medical staff and effectively a soup kitchen to keep staff fed. But I'm just looking at sort of drilling down into the research a bit more that BMA has done. It's not necessarily that they want to leave the profession. I mean, many are talking about going abroad and going to New Zealand and Australia, so continuing in their jobs, but with better conditions and a better rate of pay.
I mean, we've got to understand that when a doctor becomes a doctor, there is approximately 100,000 debt on them. They've put their whole youth into studying. These are highly qualified professionals, very educated members of the society, the cream of our society. Of course, they have the right to move to better, brighter lands where they are appreciated and where they can have a better quality of life. It's very difficult for a doctor to qualify as a doctor and then say, we're going to quit and move on to a new profession. So yes, if you look at the BMS survey again in a bit more detail, a third of the doctors are actually thinking of leaving in the next 12 months if they get the opportunity to leave. And I personally know so many doctors and nurses who, as we speak now, are actually working in Australia and New Zealand. Better pay, better weather, more appreciation, and definitely not the risk of burning out.
That's quite worrying, isn't it? I mean, I get the point. You spend 5 years of your life, probably more depending on the specialisation you go into, rack up thousands of pounds of debt. The last thing you're going to do is think, oh, I've made a mistake here. I don't want to be a doctor. Let's go and do something else. You're going to want to find a way of continuing it somehow, especially if you've got a passion to help others, as many a doctor would have. So what are they doing? They're jumping ship and leaving. And then what state will that leave our NHS in, which is, let's face it, struggling as it is. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are they right? Are they wrong? Have we got a real problem? Is it going to get worse? More importantly, how do we fix it? Anyway, I'm off. I'll see you with another one soon. Toodaloo.